is a lot of it with David Bednar? Because I know he's going to be a hot topic the entire offseason. Do you tender him a contract? Do you not? So what's up with David? Can you regain it? Because that's the other thing, too. I mean, relievers are prone to just fall off.
Do you want to know what I would do? Is that kind of what you're asking? I'll say it.
Yeah.
Probably get this. Make sure you put this one as a real. This would be. I would.
Okay.
He's projected at $6.1 million.
Yep.
In arbitration. I'd go to him and say, David, we're going to sign you to a 2-year deal, and you're our closer.
Boom.
We're going to give you 4.5, the same exact contract, or whatever his contract was last year. And then if you return, when you return to form, we'll go back up to 6.1. So $10 million deal, 2-year deal, lock him in and say, we believe in you, period. And then make him the closer.
Okay.
And I think it would work. I actually know it'll work.
So there is the mental
Unless
side
there's
to
no
it.
injuries or nothing there. That's what I would do with guys like David Bednar.
And I'm assuming no injury, obviously, too, right?
Yeah. Because like if he's Holderman next year in the sense of numbers, but with better, he obviously has better swing and miss stuff, which I'm surprised Holderman doesn't get more swing and miss. You're still getting a great deal. And you know he's going to throw every day. And I would tell him, like, we want you. I would give him an appearance bonus, which that's probably a faux po right now. We probably shouldn't talk about that much. I know you want to, but that's what I would do. I think that's all really, really important.
Okay.
Because then you're saying we're in.
I also want to ask you this and just your perspective, because this is a hot topic with him, and it's kind of national as well.
Do you like that? Do you like that idea?
I do. But I don't know enough. But the thing about David Bednar was the stuff was still there. It wasn't as if it's like, okay, you know what? His stuff's declining. This could be the time where David Bednar's dropping off and maybe red alarms are going off and let's stay away. Right? Let's get ahead of it. Let's not sign him because he's damaged goods and he's not going to pitch. The stuff was actually better than it's been.
He had a lot of issues throughout the year.
I think you just start off. That's what I'm gonna ask you. Was he tipping pitches?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that was a bigger problem than what you think about the whole Chapman and the mentality part, or they all just kind of play in hand?
I think it starts to stack.
Got you.
And the biggest fear is where it leads. And a lot of times it can, which he did a great job with this. He never left his movements far enough to where I saw like, oh no, like Oviedo, like you could kind of be like, man, him tipping and getting into uncharted territories because he'd never been a starter in the big leagues, which obviously it didn't matter then because we had 2 starters, but you could kind of see that something bad was probably going to happen, but you prayed it didn't. But they really didn't. I don't even know if they had a choice. And that guy wanted to throw, which I'm going to always lean on. You want the ball, you get the ball. And I think he's an interesting piece for me next year and what they do with him, because he's the guy that can change the dynamic for our team pitching wise. And I'm thinking more in the bullpen, but I don't know. I'm sure he wants to start, but I think if somebody told him, hey dude, you could be elite, maybe even better than elite, and seeing 6, 8.5 coming at you at 100 with a nasty slider, and a guy that will want to close every game is kind of crazy. So
that's, I think, a conversation another day, because I think there's a lot to go and dive into that, because I'm with you. And what allows that possibility is the fact this team has some, not just depth, but actually quality depth in the rotation. 2 years ago, you're talking crazy about putting him in the bullpen. We need a starter. You're starting. But now, because of how, again, not just depth, but there's some real good starters there that even if he did return to the rotation, you're looking at him probably like a number 4, number 5 starter with what's out there. So do you value him as a late innings bullpen guy or not? So I like that. But back to Bednar here. I think that makes sense. Like, I could get on board with that, giving him that contract. And again, I'm not saying the Pirates are going to do this. I wish they would do more things like this, and that's why we're talking about get creative. But, like, you know what? Maybe we did you wrong. Maybe we slayed you a little bit, but here's the thing. We'll give you a boost of confidence. We believe in you. We're going to show it to you. Here's your money. $10 million. If you're talking $10 million over 2 years, what is that for a reliever?
I think he would take less. I think he would take less.
So like, if that's what it's going to cost.
He's a homegrown guy. Like if he got good advisement, his agents should come back, hey, let's go 2 and an option. You know, like,
yeah.
If you have a guy that wants to be here, you have a guy that loves Pittsburgh, he's going to have his first, he's the next McCutchen. 3 Clemente Awards. He's always, even in his worst, he was out and about in the community.
Mm-hmm.
He probably brings in and generates $4 million for you without literally being on the field.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a no-brainer. And you don't want to lose guys like that.
Right.
Because, like, those are the guys, like, you only get a certain amount of Neil Walkers in baseball history. David Bednar is a Neil Walker. He'll be a legend here forever. And we don't need to lose sight of that's part of our history.
Again, you know what I mean? Nothing they kind of lack on. But and I'll even say this, like, go 6-12. Go 6-12. Give it 6 year, 6 next year, call it a, like $6 million for a reliever, back end closer.
I don't think he would, talent. If he's the David Bednar I know, he won't take more. Okay. Because he doesn't think he deserves it. So you say, we're going to give you the years because we want you to be here. We want you to be a part of this winning. And, like, give him his 4.5 or whatever it is. Repeat this year. Repeat the next year. Whatever. I think he would take it. Most guys want the time more than they just want the money. There's no doubt in my mind that man wants the time. His family's here. Like, everything for him. He walks out the renegade, for God's sakes.
Yeah. Yeah. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your #1 source for everything sports betting. Every stat, every matchup, breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games, with the largest catalog and odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA, to political props. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. But again, like, I think that takes care of the mental side you're talking about. He's in a good spot. I know I'm here. And then again, I feel this year was more fluky than anything.
There's a lot of flukies.
So if you can get him back on track, and that's a win for you all around. So what about get creative? There's this part of it. So that helps the bullpen. Get David Bednar back on track. Do you also think there's any potential about getting Chapman back? Just to throw you on the spot here. Here's why I ask it. I'll tell you what. Here's why I'll even entertain this.
If you want to know where I think he's going, you're not going to like it.
Uh-oh. Okay.
I think he's going to be in Cincinnati.
Oh, man. All right, we're ending this show right now.
With Terry,
they're going to cut Chapman.
As soon as they signed Terry Francona, my first thought was they're going after Chapman. Because you're talking about firing up a fan base.
Yeah.
You're talking about one of the best, like, Latin players. But it could also hurt their closer, who had a good year. But once again, Latin players are a different breed. But that's something they're going to need. And they have one of the best young bullpen arms from the last year's draft. That kid from Tennessee and Wake Forest, who will probably be in the big leagues next year. So, like, that's where I think he's going. Because
that's
I don't know how many years he has left, but I wouldn't be surprised if they sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal. Fan base going to be fired up. And if they're ever going to do it, the time is now.
I mean, the guy's still throwing 105. He's got at least 1 year left.
Yeah, but there would be, like, he would kind of be like here. But, like, I think you saw what he did when he pitched against them. He always was hitting 103, 104. So,
yeah. But again, I guess the reason I had to ask that was I was always a little bit curious why the Pirates didn't put him on waivers. Because that's a large contract. You know, they did to others, but they didn't do it with him. So always made me, in the back of my mind, think that they might want to bring him back.
Yeah, that's a good point. And two, like, You needed him if you were trying to show the fans and the city that you're trying to win. I thought they were going to
trying to do.
I thought they were going to try to get the Kansas City when they got that kid from Texas.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That worked out pretty well for Kansas City as they're in the playoffs this year, losing over 100 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, let's talk about some other things about getting creative, because again, there's a lot of holes here. There's a lot of things. I liked. Okay, I'll put it this way. I wanted O'Neal to stay shortstop. I like what they did when they put him the outfield, chose center field, because I think there's one thing you talk about. Look at free agency this year. It's kind of light in center field. You already traded for IKF, which I don't think is the answer to short. And I think you kind of alluded to that. He's best all around, which I totally agree. But you know what? There's no center fielders out there. Put O'Neal out there, and I think he can succeed. I think he'd be a really, really good center fielder. Same thought process. We talked a little behind the scenes with this too. Moving Brian Reynolds to first base, I think that'll do well for him. I think also look at first base free agency this year. Like, how are you going to get a first baseman this year? Maybe Brian Reynolds is the answer, because I think it's easier to fill 2 corner spots than it is like a first baseman. I think it helps out Reynolds. I think it helps out the team, the future. And now you kind of focus on the corners. Maybe internally somewhere, we'll find out. Maybe Jack comes back. But I think that's some creativity. And they've kind of entertained the idea. And seems like Brian Reynolds is all for it. He's been talking from his mouth, more or less. He's been talking about for like the past 3 years, which I found kind of like, oh, okay. Like, he's on board with this. This is kind of cool. Do you think Brian Reynolds will be a first base next year?
If he wants to be, yeah. And I think he'd be great at it. Analytically, he had a tough year in the outfield. So I think that could enhance the team in a heartbeat. And I'm with you. Like, you could definitely probably find some guys to, put in the corners. The only question is, like, how good can he be defensively pretty quickly? Because you don't – that's one position, and KY's kind of really nailed this in my head. They touch the ball too much. So, him hopefully being Bryce Harper is the hope.
Good comp.
He did it really quickly. I think
he did.
Brian Reynolds is a better runner and a better mover. But we'll see. Bryce Harper had a lot more background on the dirt, but I do feel like, he can handle it. I think there's options. If not, I think you look at him as possibly the right fielder next year. And he stays.
That arm plays.
The arm plays. He can play
deep. He showed off that arm this year.
Well, he likes to play deep and left, which made him grade out even worse. That's why he was way better in center. So I think playing him in right, pushing O'Neal over into the gap, depending on which I haven't looked at it enough, but like seeing which way he moves better, that opens up a lot more options in left, but it gives Brian Reynolds the space, and we know he moves better going that way towards second base, because all of his diving plays are almost always that way. When he makes one the other way, away from second base. So I think you could play it out. So I think that would really help. And tell O'Neal Cruz you play center and left center, and let Brian Reynolds, show off that arm and, get used to that side of the field. And if that doesn't work out, now he's been on that side of the field. Now you bring him in the dirt. He's still on that side of the field, because that was the one benefit Bryce Harper has, because everything's going to move different.
That makes sense.
So that would be my thought. I wouldn't mind seeing Lane Thomas in left.
I know that. The guy hit the grand slam today. Yeah,
but if you do that, they should trade Jack Swilinski. And there's going to be bidders out there, because like he should be a higher floor guy. I don't know why his defense fell off, but I think next year he could be your left fielder. And I like that aspect, him being in left with Cruz.
Yeah. So. What do you think about the shortstop position? Because that's one also I did not like. the outcome of moving Cruz to short. I'm sorry, it's the center, because the move was, well, we have IKF here, so he can play short. And that just takes away his ability. You know, again, like his value is, I talk about him in the same situation, like Jay Hay, like the reason with Triolo, like his value. The value is he plays good defense everywhere, and you need that. And ironically enough, the position he grades out the worst at is short. So you're putting him at like the biggest disadvantage for himself, and I hate it. So I'm hoping they're going to address short and let IKF be that roamer, or maybe a trade, actually. Do you think there's a solution to short?
My old solution is keep Ryan.
I'm with that also, by the way.
So that would be one. Two is Bo Bichette. But like, I think you also got to look at, once again, going back to, if we go around the diamond, what value, like O'Neill's value in center field could be so high that we may get a 9 outs above average defensively, and then also the offense. So you're talking about, he's probably going to, if he does what I think he can do, and I think winning is going to just help that, he may be in the MVP talks just because of how good I think he'll be defensively with how good his base running was. He went from a negative valued base runner to a positive valued base runner. I think that's just going to continue, and he's doing it with ease. So like,
he showed since July, like he put all those words behind about that ankle. I mean, that guy is healthy. The way he was running the second half, we know the power is there. He also showed that, listen, the wheels are still there also. Like a 30-30 season does not seem astronomically out of the question for next year.
No, he could be 40-40.
Well, you said it.
Well, it's just, you got to have
that talent is certainly there.
Yeah, you have to have presence. There's a reason why Judge, hits the way he does. One, the ballpark. One, he's ginormous. And two, he's got a pretty good lineup around him. So like, but I think that's what you got to start thinking about. Like, I think Nick Gonzalez at second base. I mean, he was, last I checked was when we played the Cubs. Him and Horner were right here with outs above average. So you're talking about one of the best defensive second basemen possibly. So now you think about, what do they value? If I like Bo Bichette, I like his dad. I wrote you a message and told you what I thought. I think it'd be a slam dunk. He's 25. So him and O'Neill, same age. And you give them the same deal or close to it. And say, all right, boys, we got the middle. We got Reynolds. We got Keller. We got Bednar. We bring him back Kutch. Now all of a sudden you have roots. And I think that's something that I was talking to my wife about, because she asked me, like, I've had some people call me recently about, oh, what do you think about me trying to get this job or that job? And I get calls every year seeing if I'm interested in doing certain things. And she was like, what holds you back? And it's like, well, one, like most of the guys I've just talked to are living in hotels. They don't have a house. Like every manager I ever had, Hurdle, he had a multi-million-dollar house here. Like I don't know of any of the coaches that had a house here, or they even have like a condo here. So their roots aren't here. That's even worse for the players. The fact that Brian Reynolds owns a house here, Keller bought a house here, Bednar bought a house here. Now you're starting to think a little bit along the lines of what we had, because Grilly lived here, Kutch lived here, Neil lived here. You know what I mean? Like that stuff matters.
Actually, all through them still live here, right?
Exactly. And that's the biggest fear, is like you don't want to lose that.
But again, I feel like the one, all three live here still, because also there's culture. Yep. Right?
Yep. Big Ben, lives here. Like guys love it here because it is a family, type place. It's a big little city, man. So yeah, it's a lot. This is the weirdest offseason for me because I have no idea what they're gonna do. Like I know
I feel you on that.
Yeah, like
because I think there's like,
say, oh yeah, they need a bat at first base. Well, do they? Like Is that going to solve our problems? Probably not. Like it's deeper than that, and I think they're trying to figure that out because like you can't analytic a good team together. That's been proven time and time again. You got to have some glue guys. You got to have some guys that know that, you know, like in hockey, they're their enforcer. I'm going to go punch this guy because he just came at my guy. I don't think we had that. I don't think we had that this year. I think Rowdy wanted to be. The city pushed on him when he did that with Bednar. And right, wrong, or indifferent, like I'm always on the side of the guy that sticks up for his teammate. Did he do it right? I don't know. Probably not. Like calling out a city. But at the end of the day, like he was trying to do something. And I do respect that.
I still, to this day, I said it back then, still, you can feel however you want about Rowdy. I appreciated that moment. And it just ended up being that, you know, again, he wasn't performing well at that point in time. And then, of course, David Bednar had the season he had and whatever.
Yeah, and
but
he
like,
walked in, I think walking into it is
that's
probably,
the guy I want to me.
Yeah, absolutely. But he could have caught the one thing I wish I could have talked to him about is calling the media over after the fact. Because it's one thing AJ did. It's one thing that I saw like guys do, like wait and get them. You know, get them. Like, because saying it out like that, you're making it about you. Saying it behind the scenes until you have to say it out in front makes it about them.
That's fair.
I don't think there's that dynamic anymore in media.
But I'm with you. I think that's something this team's lacking. Again, like I just feel like just culture, just leadership, like just it's all the intangibles for the most part is what I think like is the biggest problem outside of building a quality team.
Yeah.
But like I'm nervous about this offseason because I feel like they might be different. Like the questions are different, but I think there's still the same amount of questions about this year as you had last year. There's a lot of unsolved things, unknowns. You know, you don't feel any more confident this year than, you know, last year. And again, it's just, how's it going to? We already have progressions. You have contracts been given out. Arbitration, you know, progresses. So the flexibility of money you think shortens almost at this point. And it's like, I just feel like that this team has to hit internally. Like that's the way this team is going to be good next year. It's not so much we can talk about what they're going to add and such, right?
But what is hit? Like what?
Like, okay, so like I guess what I mean is you have to find out, and is Brian Hayes healthy and he has a good back? And if so, what player he is, you know, it's not how this year. Like Brian Hayes needs to be an everyday third baseman. Going back to 2022.
Define 2023. That. So 16 homers. What are you at, 280?
The year before?
Yeah. I'll look it up.
Let me bring it up. I forget.
I got it right here.
Didn't it be in that high?
I can't remember.
I know he had a monstrous 2 months there. So he hit 271 and 15 home runs. Yeah, basically.
And how many runs do you drive in?
61. I mean, I'll take that production all day long. And again, like you said, like that's a 3-WAR player. Even better because he didn't play the whole year. But you're going to assume he's not going to play a whole year at this point in time. But that's a 3-WAR player.
And I think that's a bad. I think we should assume he's going to play. You know what I mean? Like that's where it's another like argument I got into. Somebody's like, so why would that thought be in anybody's mind when we should be saying the opposite? Because I mean, I've rehabbed 5 different times for knee surgery, 6. And I never once said, I'm going to have to pull back. I'm going to say, I'm going to be better from this.
You might.
But like, I'm saying the mentality. It goes back to that identity. You can't protect a mentality. It's going to, you know, develop how it develops. But if you put restrictions on it, you're pretty much saying this is where it's at. Like the fact he went to LA, I think was brilliant. It got him outside the box. I know who we went and saw, guy I really respect, and guy's going to hit him straight.
Okay.
I think it's really important to always to look at it as a career aspect and a team aspect and a life aspect, because Like you have to live after you play. You don't want to be crippled. So I think he did it right. I think maybe he made a decision that, hey, I need to take this time. And if he did, like that's the things I wish somebody would coach them up to say, hey, just say that. Like I need this time because I know I'm going to come back better. Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
Because he's going to come in spring training. He's going to look great. He's going to be yoked up. He's going to hit homers. We're all going to get excited, but that's the same thing that's happened the last couple of years in his back.
I was going to say that's the MO.
So that
he starts pulling the ball.
The fact he did something different is good.
Okay. But I guess again, like on the outside, like that's what I'm looking at. You know, like I'm looking at is I'm worried about the back. And again, I don't know the ins and outs, right? I'm worried about the back because it's been a problem. But then I'm also, the second question is like, who is Ke'Bryan Hayes? Like you talked about earlier, like, is he just an average hitter? Is he below? I will take it. I will even take the 90 weighted runs per plus. I will take the below average hitter because the defense is so good, right? But like you need that because this year didn't have any of that. It was awful. You know, even the defense took a slide.
But you also can't wait. It's my opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't wait for what you think he's going to be. He's a contract guy. He has to be who he is.
Well, right.
And that was a big problem I saw this year. It's like he wasn't able to lift off and launch. He wasn't catching up to fastballs. That's never been a problem. So it made me think that the back may have been a bigger issue. That fact was there, and it was there for a long time. Something me and Kutch talked about a lot, especially his first year back, was you can be as good as 13 Kutch, but don't chase the feel you had in 13 because you're not the same guy. You've had surgeries, you've been beaten up, you have 4 kids, you're older. You have an advantage if you look at it the right way because all that wear and tear, you're still elite in all the areas that you were elite in 13 outside of speed. So like be that guy and adapt accordingly. If you have adaptability, understand, hey, this is where I'm at. And I think he's still, that's why I continue to say, like, I think he's going to be better next year because if he takes what he learns and he doubles down without the constant rehab, the fact he came back from that Achilles is crazy. It changed everything because I think he'll have a bigger year. But like Ke'Bryan, if you know, all right, this is where I'm at and I can identify, I don't have to be a 3-hole hitter, right? I can be a guy that's hitting and running, you know, in different things because he still made a lot of contact. So yes. I think it's just kind of sitting down once again with him and saying, hey, wherever we're at, let's be open in communication and move forward and just identify where you're at.
Right. And yeah, to your point, his K rate was the lowest it's ever been.
Yeah, there's some underlying things that like you can see that are blatant as day, but I always think about it like this. I'm starting to do a lot more with individuals. And the first thing I ask them is like, what type of player you want to be? And if you can't answer that question for yourself, there's a huge problem. And most guys from the big leagues down cannot answer that question. And then the next question is, how do you get there? And then are you willing to do it? And it's okay if you're not, but that gives us a process. And I think that's where, you know, you look at Ke'Bryan, he's a contract guy. This is the benefit of having a contract guy. Here's where we're at. Here's what we got to do. Money's still coming in, period. But you need to be able to bunt. You need to use that barrel control for the benefit of the team and just make it work, you know? Then he becomes a Josh Bell or a what's the shortstops from the 90s? Jay Bell. He becomes Jay Bell.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I think, like, I hope baseball is realizing is, like, putting a team together is not always the best players. It's about putting the right formula together. And I think that's the Pirates' biggest need next year is, like, the formula. And I think you can't have a better recipe starting with Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, and Jared Jones.
The easy part's done.
No,
I mean, the hard part. My bad. The hard part's done. Yes.
Well, I would actually say what you just said is that's actually right. The easy part is done. The hardest part is coming. Every move is going to have a consequence, good or bad.
Okay.
And I think they've been incredible at strategic signings and call-ups. I don't know if that's Travis Williams, but like to get national attention, to do certain, like they've done an incredible job over the last 4 or 5 years. I'll be interested to see kind of how it all unfolds this offseason. Like they planned the when Kutch signed last year.
Yeah.
You know, like everything was like kind of planned out. Like it was probably way before that. You know, and I think that's one thing they've done really well.
I agree. I wish the baseball side would be done as well as also. I just want to finish off, I guess, just this, because we're talking about next year, and you brought up, you know, the Paul Skeens, all that. What are your thoughts on Bubba? So
I wanted to make sure we talked about this. I could talk all day. I haven't had any ball talk recently. I have a question for you and your group. I wish they were on here. The restrictions, pitching, 6-man rotation. Thoughts for you guys before I answer that Bubba question, because I have my thoughts and I want to hear. I don't think it's something that people are talking about or thought about much, but going into next year, it may be the biggest and boldest move by the Pirates to do what they did again. My mind.
On this spot here, that's creative. Like that's outside the box. That's different, right? Like, but does this also mean you're doing it because Bubba Chandler's starting from day one? That's why you would do it also, right?
I'm asking you.
Okay. So if you're asking me, I'm GM DiNardo. Bubba's starting from day one. I am excited about Bubba Chandler. Super excited about him. I think he's in between a Skeens and Jared Jones. Like I think he'd be better than Jared Jones. No one's gonna be better than Skeens. But that's how good like the talent I think is there. I'm starting from day one because next year is also important, just like this year was. That's why you put Jared Jones out there. And that's why you're getting Skeens up here as quickly as you can. So I'm starting from day one. And the thing that's good about Chandler, opposed to like Jared Jones, even Paul Skeens to some level, is I'm not totally worried about the restrictions of him as far as innings. Like he's pitched meaningful innings the past 2 years. And then this year, was he like 140 or 150?
Yeah, they shut him down.
130?
He didn't make his last start.
But the innings are there. So he can basically pitch like a full year. So if you want to ensure he's doing all that and have a 6-man rotation because you have Paul Skeens, Jared Jones, who also, why this benefits, Jared Jones had the injury. He didn't really top out too far this year either as far as his innings, right? He didn't really push the innings this year.
That the innings thing will have to be another conversation another day.
Okay.
Because like I was an exercise science major. Just hearing that over and over again makes zero sense when it comes to like elasticity and durability. Like you don't run less to be a better runner. Like every dude that just took a break, right? 3 days after they're done, your muscle starts atrophying. And then they do a rebuild phase. And then we're saying that 2023's innings, 2024's innings, just decreased a little bit, matter when like it's a completely different year. 6 months later, it's crazy. Like I've tried to figure it out. I've tried to like ask medical people. Nobody has a real answer. It's nuts. So that was one thing, because you train for what you want to be, not what, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like putting my dog outside and say, don't be a dog. There's an electric fence. And he gets shocked over and over again. Then he literally won't leave the yard.
Yeah.
Like when you think about it, like, because it literally doesn't make sense and it's not working anywhere. So that's what I was alluding to. I do agree with Bubba. I do agree he should be in the big leagues. Because once again, go back to our conversation about the bullpen. And then that pushes better arms into, like, I think we're probably going to start with 5 righties. Ortiz being the 5th.
Yeah.
and that pushes Oviedo to maybe, I'm sure he's going to need about a month.
Right.
And I would talk to him, and if he looks good, I'd sign him too and say, we're signing you and putting you in the bullpen because that's where we need you the most. You're going to be Ortiz from last year. You know,
that's honestly like that's how I look at it. Like I think he could slide in to be the Ortiz role, and because that Ortiz role had so much value, but also because Ortiz
Falter could be
well
that guy too. Falter could be that guy. I think he would play up. I think his velocity playing up in the bullpen. I don't think he realizes how much that may extend his career, and with the new slider. But he's a different arm. I love different in the bullpen. So like, yeah, I think you're creating depth. I would talk to Barco in spring training and say, hey, bro, you want to be in the big leagues? You're Majinski number 2?
Probably yes.
Yeah. And I'd say,
right.
You know what I mean? And I would just look at it like that and stack up. And then if there's an available guy, just like they did Chapman last year, you know who I want, I'd go sign him.
Yeah.
And I'd have 6 starters, 7 starters, because I would push Ortiz back in the bullpen because I know how good he can be out there.
So I guess so I don't hate it. And again, the reason I like it is because there's a lot of talent there that like your number 6 starter isn't a nobody. You know what I mean? Like it's probably as good as someone's number 3 starter. But I guess what I'm alluding to here is I want to also maximize Paul Skeens starts. And that'd be the only thing. Him on 5 days, every 5th instead of every 6th, get a couple more starts on the Paul Skeens next year. That's what I want to see.
So never in the history of baseball has a 6-man rotation worked.
Okay.
So that's what I was alluding to. I want Paul Skeens. If you're trying to win, it'd be the boldest move. You can't restrict. That's the one thing I'm surprised I haven't gotten in trouble about is the fact that I'm very vocal about the fact of like, let him play.
Right.
Like you're watching Kutch limp and hit like MVP Kutch in September or August, whichever. I think it was August. And you're allowing that because it's good and it's amazing. How do you get there? He has 17 years going into next year. He understands more about himself. And like the fact how I told you
made me sad, by the way. Sorry.
I'm
just processing. It's been 17 years.
But that's the coolest part is like, that's why you sign that guy, because at half mass, he could have a 6-homer month and hit behind O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah.
What happens if he's not at half mass? And he has what he had when we were texting middle of the year and I said he's about to get hot.
Right.
You kept sending me the date. That's what you have to let these guys figure out. And that's how you create guys wanting to be here. Restricting guys will never make them want to be here. That's why Garrett Cole didn't have Tommy John. Because Garrett Cole is Garrett Cole. He wants to win. If you're around him, you better want to win. He's going to go all in all the time, and he wants to be the best everywhere. And Paul Skeens is just like that. So you say, Mr. Paul, what are we doing?
Right.
And then
back to your point, he's the smartest person in the room.
Paul? Yeah. And then you give that same power to Keller. You give that same power to Jones, but you put him in their place. And I think he'll do that. He'll lead those guys. And I think Bubba's a leader too, from what I understand. And don't sleep on Mike Burrows. That guy's I think he's a misfit. I think he's going to be good. But once again, a guy that could be pushed in the bullpen or depth in AAA.
Yeah. it honestly, you talk about things don't work out. Like things don't always go to plan. You think you have pitching depth and you don't. Look at the LA Dodgers, right? So things are going to work out, but like it's crazy to think about the actual true starting pitching depth this team has for next year. And you think up like Harrington also. Like Harrington's in AAA, awaiting his debut next year also. Yeah,
and I think, and then Ashcraft, if he's healthy, he also profiles
right. Actually, yeah.
But like that's where you can double down, and people aren't going to like this, but like that's when you can double down and trade guys that maybe you don't want to trade because you're like, I'm betting on this guy. This guy's got stuff and everything else. It just doesn't have that fit we need. He don't. And then you push, guys out. Cause like one thing I think, and I can't believe I'm saying this, that I'd love to see a little bit more when they need to do it is like a revolving bullpen door. Tampa Bay did it. I hated it, but I saw what it did for the young guys, and it was remarkable. So, like, they were quick to put guys on the IL. They were quick to bring you up for 2 innings and shut you down and send you right back down. We didn't do that a lot, and I think that's the balance of respecting the player, being honest, because I know Shelton's tries to be as open as possible with these guys. I think that could be a game changer for us, because then you could take, like, Barco's not going to be able to be a full-time starter until probably the following year by their, analytics. All these guys, if you're getting in the postseason, you're up to 180, right? 170.
Yep.
A lot of guys fall off because they've never been there. Garrett Cole just pitched his best game. And that's what you want to see, is like, if we're never there, they're never throwing, and then you want to win when they've never thrown there. It doesn't make sense. So then that's why the bullpens are always dominant in the postseason, because they're all the guys that can go out and blow doors. So what do you want to have in your bullpen? Door blowers.
Yeah.
And that's where you push guys with stuff out there, and you have bullpen days in the middle of the season, not because you need a starter, but because you need a better option than what you have. Or you don't want to bring up Harrington because you want to control his innings a little bit further. Like, you just got to play that game, so that way you're like, we're winning with our best today. We're playing the Dodgers. We don't need to have a top prospect start against the Dodgers. You know what I mean? Like, those are the big things that nobody thinks about except the players.
But also, to another degree, and we talked about this a little bit also, like the Brewers, like with Corbin Burns and Peralta. Like, that's how they developed them. They went into the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
They had stuff, and then they became Cy Young candidates.
Yeah, because and I think with Oscar and his ability to develop, he's shown that, like, that's the formula.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't throw bullpens. Like, the way they throw bullpens now are so different. It's so full mass, like full on look at the TrackMan data, full on trying to create shape, spin, that, like, you really don't get any feel. So when they lose it, you can tell they pretty much lose it. Like, Paul Skeens, I think, is going to change a lot of that, throwing the football, doing all the movement stuff he does, because he's creating understanding of his body and feel. But, like, in the bullpen, you can give a guy 3 days off, and in the middle throw him, and then, like, a real full-fledged bullpen, and get something done. And I think that's what you can do with the young guys, bringing them up and down, because then you get the big league coach, their eyes are on them all year. And I think we have that type of depth, but you have to be willing to send Nicholas down because he has options. You have to be willing to send Majinski down because he has options. If you have options, understand that that's kind of the way it's going to be. And that's okay, because they know what the long-term play is.
Right.
And then the last thing I would love to see Tampa Bay model too is, they didn't do this because of this, but Ben Cherington traded me to the Pirates. Terry Francona, Theo Epstein, and Ben all called and said, you earned this. Go get him. That is something that put Ben in a category for me that said he's different when he first got here, because he didn't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you want to be known for. Like, Dan O'Dowd will always be in my head, that guy's a great GM.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he said the truth, and he took a chance. So I know that's a lot. I've been digging in a lot of stuff lately, so try to process what life's bringing me. Well, we should do this more often, because, like, I do think it's going to be interesting to look back and say, well, what are they doing? Like, why are they doing that? Because I'm kind of going off the grid with it for a while, and I just want to see it unfold, because I do think they're smart people, and I think they're trying to do the right thing. But I do think there's a disconnect of, like, what is the right thing for the Pirates?
Yeah, I think anyone with the right mind's going to understand that they're all smart people. I mean, they're all smarter than us. That's why they're there. It's easy for us to say, oh, you're an idiot, you're dumb, this whole thing, but they're smart. But I think I'm with you too. It's like I think there's an absolute disconnect in like all facets of this regime. And I don't know what to do. So yeah, like you're talking about here, this is going to be an interesting offseason. So I think we need to connect a little bit to talk it through here and there.
Yeah. So I'll tell you something that my hope is this time next year, if I go to PNC Park, I walk in to the big league clubhouse and I see Paul Skeens' nameplate in his locker full. I see Keller's stuff, Reynolds, Bednar, Kutch, because that's what I saw when I first got to the Rockies. They had us in for winter development. I was 21, and they took us in the big league. We were in the visiting locker room. They took us in, showing us around, whatever. We walk into the home clubhouse. I see Tulo's locker. I see Brad Hopp's locker. I see Todd Helton's locker. Dude, it's all full. And then Matt Holliday's locker. Cargo's. And I just was in awe. And then I saw half of them there. I've never seen anybody work out at PNC.
Gotcha.
And I think that speaks volumes of roots, family.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, if I walk into Derek Shelton's office, it's there. It's got pictures. It's the same. But every single year, every dude in that clubhouse packs up everything and leaves. You don't pack up your house and leave. I had to do that last year with AT&T, and it made me think about it a lot, like, because stuff went missing, but the disconnect, like when I went back, I didn't have the same desk. For 6 years, I had the same desk.
Right.
Like I had a hidden cubby in that desk still, which is funny. And it's those things like that may not matter, but it does.
It's culture.
Because it's your home. Like, you know, where creeks are, you know, where like I always talked about Kutch, like he knows where the tunnels are. Like I can't find him some days. Like, bro, where are you? And that matters. You know, I really, really think all that stuff really, really matters. And it may not bring 30 wins, but I'll guarantee you it brings better morale, better culture, better identity, because guys feel wanted, they feel cared about, and they feel like we're doing something.
Right.
You know, that's why the IKF trade I loved, because they went out and got a winner, and we needed it. You know, so
now set him up for success.
Well, I think goes back to the time contracts. He has something to fight for, different than other guys. Like when you're just trying to stay there, but when somebody owes you $7 million, you'll punch back.
Yeah.
So that's another benefit of spending a little bit of money. You really do get the best out of people. I mean, think about it. Think about if tomorrow you showed up and they're like, all right, you're designated for assignment. Right?
Yeah.
You still got bills to pay.
Yeah.
It's crazy when you think about it sometimes. High risk, high reward. But like when you say, like my dream was to get a 2-year deal. I got hurt in 15. All I had to do was stay healthy because I knew my arbitration was going to be too high for a backup. It was going to really work out to be, you know, a two-year guy. And I got hurt. But like that was me looking in the mirror and saying, this is going to work out better. And I was going to have to take less money and everything else. But like, that was my dream, you know, because then you're like, I can buy a house in Colorado. Because no matter what, I'm going to be there at least 2 years because I could sit there and not play and get paid. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
And their AAA was in Colorado Springs.
Well,
but there's value. There truly is value. Because remember, Andrew McCutchen's best year, 2013. What happened the year before? Or the offseason.
What?
He signed a $56 million deal.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never forget the words he said. Now I'm gonna do me.
That's off your back. That worry, It's gone.
Yeah, like Paul Skeens having $10 million in the piggy bank doesn't hurt. You know?
Right.
Obviously he earned it. He probably earned more.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I just been the Buster Posey thing got me like thinking about like baseball operations and everything else. Like what a brilliant move. So I've been like deep diving into all
out of
this.
nowhere. That was a shock.
Did you hear how it all happened?
No.
Huh.
Maybe I missed it.
He bought in as a minority share owner to get on the board, and then they hired him. Brilliant.
Well, there you go.
I already texted 5 guys and said, "Hey, rotate the chair. Anybody?"
Nice.
But I'd love to know, and hopefully I run into him. I'd love to know if he approached that or if they approached him, because I do think that's a value.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how it goes. That's
cool.
Gonna be interesting.
Yeah, the Giants are gonna be really good next year, especially when you can talk Snell into being back.
Yeah. Or just not be good next year and maybe trade the Pirates some of those guys.
No, you want to share the name that I said we should? And everybody's gonna think I'm nuts, but I want to go get that guy in Japan.
Oh,
he's like 35 or 36.
Yeah, when it comes to like international ones like that, like I don't see him enough. I don't know him enough. You know, I don't want to like stamp anything.
You know,
outside of like Ohtani, that worked out really well.
Why?
You know?
Why I love it is he wants to do it, and he wants a short-term deal through 3 complete games, most innings ever pitched. Kind of recreated himself. He's always been good, and it brings another market to Pittsburgh. So that's why. And then you know the other guy I want to sign. But yeah, they're both starters. And I wouldn't mind Lorenzen and Nick Martinez if I'm being greedy, especially Nick Martinez.
We need Lorenzen I wanted this past year too.
Yeah, I want dudes that are older. Like I want Kittredge too. I want some older guys that will throw.
Yes. For sure.
Yeah, I want the beer league softball, my boy. Yeah. He's open to it.
I'll take Kittredge in a second.
Well, he had 60-something appearances. And he'll take the ball. And that's what we need. Like then you can protect those younger guys.
Right. Cool,
bro. Well, I feel like I took your time today because I was so excited to talk baseball.
No, you're good. Well, like I said, we'll have to talk more this offseason for sure. Hopefully a lot of good stuff too.
Absolutely. You guys doing anything this offseason?
Like what? We're doing a lot.
Like going anywhere? Like
we'll be at winter meetings.
When are those?
Dallas. The 7th. Well, we'll be there 7th through 11th. I guess they start the 9th, 10th, 11th.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be at fantasy camp, but cool. Yeah, I was just wondering if you guys would be around at all.
Yeah, no, we'll be there. We got Brady to book too. Last week of February, we'll be there.
Awesome.
So, all right, man.
I appreciate you. Hey,
thanks.
Just gotta hope the best, right?
Right. And we'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.
Hey, you all, thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.